David watched through the observation window as their transport shuttle approached the massive structure floating in space. The Interstellar Academy station looked like a crystal flower blooming against the darkness, its transparent sections glowing with soft blue light. Behind him, Rex pressed his nose against the window, tail wagging as he spotted something moving outside. "You excited, boy?" David scratched behind the German shepherd's ears. Rex woofed softly in response. Amy sat across from them, her tabby cat whiskers curled contentedly in a carrier on her lap. "I still can't believe they let us bring our pets. Most human universities barely allow goldfish in dorms." Robert adjusted his shoulder where Captain, his green parrot, perched comfortably. The invitation specifically mentioned companion animals for emotional well-being. "I guess they take mental health seriously out here." The shuttle docked with a gentle thump. As the airlock cycled open, David clipped a leash to Rex's collar and stepped into the station proper. The corridor beyond was unlike anything he had seen before. The walls seemed to shift colors based on who walked past them, and the gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. A floating blob of light drifted toward them. It pulsed and hummed, and a translation device on the wall crackled to life. "Welcome, human students. I am Brightness of Dawn, Dean of Cultural Exchange Programs. Please follow the guide lights to the orientation hall." David nodded politely at the light blob, which bobbed in what might have been acknowledgement before floating away. Yellow lights appeared along the floor, creating a path for them to follow. The orientation hall was enormous. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species filled the tiered seating. David saw creatures that looked like walking crystals, others that resembled oversized butterflies, and some that defied easy description. The three humans found seats near the back, trying not to draw attention. That plan failed immediately when Rex shook himself, his collar jingling loudly in the quiet hall. Every alien head turned toward them. David noticed that most of the nearby students suddenly found reasons to move to different seats. Brightness of Dawn appeared at the front of the hall, floating above a raised platform. "Students of the Interstellar Academy, today marks the beginning of our most ambitious cultural exchange program. 47 species united in the pursuit of knowledge and understanding." The dean's light pulsed warmly as it continued. "We recognize that leaving home can be stressful. Therefore, we have implemented a companion animal policy. Many of you have brought creatures from your worlds to provide comfort during your studies." One by one, students began presenting their pets. A slug-like being showed off a small plant that hummed when touched. A crystalline student demonstrated how her pet, a floating bubble of gas, created pretty patterns. A rabbit-like alien named Priel held up a tiny ball of fur that squeaked adorably. Then it was the human's turn. David stood and Rex stood with him, panting happily. "This is Rex. He's a German shepherd, a breed of dog. Dogs have lived with humans for thousands of years." The reaction was immediate. The nearest rows of students scattered backward. Someone dropped their datapad with a clatter. A medical officer with too many legs and antennae took one look at Rex's teeth and simply fainted onto the floor. Amy tried to help by opening Whisker's carrier. The cat stretched, showing her claws, and yawned wide enough to display all her teeth. More aliens pressed themselves against the far walls. "Whiskers is very friendly," Amy said weakly. "She's just a cat." Robert decided to try a different approach. "Captain here is a parrot. He's incredibly intelligent and can mimic sounds." To demonstrate, Captain let out a cheerful whistle. Unfortunately, that whistle sounded exactly like the alarm cry of the singer species. 3 singers in the audience immediately began trilling in panic, which set off a chain reaction of various species making distress noises. Brightness of Dawn's light flickered rapidly. "Please everyone, calm yourselves. These are domesticated creatures. The humans assure us they are safe." Professor Trill, a slug-like being covered in purple slime, oozed forward to examine Rex more closely. David noticed the professor stayed well out of biting range. "This creature has forward-facing eyes. That indicates a predator, and those teeth are clearly designed for tearing meat." "Well, yes," David admitted. "Dogs are descended from wolves, which are predators. But thousands of years of living with humans have made them friendly and loyal." "You domesticated a predator?" Professor Trill's eye stalks quivered. "Voluntarily? We domesticated several predators," Amy added helpfully. "Cats chose to live with us because we had mice in our grain stores. It was mutually beneficial." Professor Trill made a gurgling sound that the translator struggled to interpret. It finally settled on horrified fascination. A small voice spoke up from the middle rows. It was Priel, the rabbit-like student who had returned to her seat. If they are so dangerous, why do you keep them? David smiled. Because they're family. Rex here will protect me, keep me company when I'm lonely, and love me unconditionally. In return, I feed him, care for him, and give him a good life. It's a partnership built on trust. But how do you know he won't attack you? Another student asked. Training and breeding, Robert explained. Humans have spent generations selecting for friendly, loyal animals. Captain could bite my finger, but he doesn't because we've built a relationship based on positive reinforcement and mutual respect. As if to prove the point, Captain began preening Robert's hair gently with his beak. Several aliens gasped at the display. Brightness of dawn pulsed a calming blue color. This is precisely why we have cultural exchange programs. To learn about practices and relationships that seem strange to us. The humans and their companions will be monitored, but they are welcome here. The dean's tone became firmer. I expect all students to treat our human guests with respect and courtesy. Fear of the unknown is natural, but we are here to overcome such barriers. The rest of the orientation passed in a blur of information about class schedules, station rules, and emergency procedures. David noticed that most aliens kept glancing nervously at Rex, who had curled up at his feet and fallen asleep, snoring softly. As they filed out of the hall afterward, Priel hopped cautiously toward them. I apologize for the reaction. We have never seen anything like your companions before. No need to apologize, Amy said kindly. I imagine we seem pretty strange to you, too. Priel's nose twitched. May I ask a question? Your cat, does it truly have claws that hide inside its paws? Retractable claws, yes. Want to see? Amy held Whiskers carefully, showing how the claws extended and retracted. She only uses them for climbing or defending herself. Priel leaned in, curiosity overcoming fear. Fascinating. And the dog, he truly sleeps near you at night? Every night, David confirmed. Usually takes up most of my bed, actually. Priel's ears flattened in amazement. You sleep near a predator. You humans must be very brave. Or very foolish, David laughed. Maybe a bit of both. But you'll see. Give it time. As they walked toward their assigned quarters, David couldn't shake the feeling that this semester was going to be far more interesting than any of them had anticipated. Rex wagged his tail, happy just to be with his human, completely unaware that he had just terrified an entire space station full of aliens. Professor Trill's comparative biology classroom smelled faintly of ammonia and something sweetly organic that David couldn't quite identify. The seats were arranged in a circular pattern around a central holographic projector, which currently displayed a rotating image of various planetary ecosystems. David had chosen a seat near the back, with Rex lying quietly beneath the desk. The German Shepherd had his head on his paws, occasionally opening one eye to check on his human before dozing off again. Amy sat 2 rows ahead with Whiskers in her lap, while Robert was near the front with Captain perched on his shoulder. Most of the other students had clustered as far from the humans as physically possible. Professor Trill oozed into the room, leaving a faint trail of purple slime that evaporated quickly. Today we discuss predator-prey relationships across the galaxy. Most civilized worlds have relatively balanced ecosystems with minimal predation pressure. The hologram shifted to show peaceful scenes of herbivores grazing on alien plains, small creatures pollinating strange flowers, and cooperative colonies working together. These are typical of Class 3 through 6 worlds where most spacefaring species evolved. The professor's eye stalks swiveled toward the humans. However, there exist extreme environments, worlds where evolution took a far more violent path. Today we will examine one such place. Earth. David felt every alien eye turn toward him. Rex, sensing the attention, lifted his head and yawned, showing all his teeth. 3 students immediately ducked behind their desks. The hologram changed to show Earth's surface. Dense jungles, vast oceans, towering mountains, and sprawling deserts rotated past. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Observe the characteristics: high gravity, extreme temperature variations, violent weather patterns, and most notably, aggressive fauna. Images of lions, tigers, bears, sharks, crocodiles, and eagles filled the display. Nearly every ecological niche on Earth contains a predator. Even the plants are hostile. The hologram showed a Venus flytrap snapping shut on an insect, then a field of poison ivy. Prill raised a trembling paw. Professor, how did anything survive long enough to evolve intelligence? An excellent question, Professor Trill responded. Humans survived through adaptability, tool use, and surprisingly, cooperation. They hunted in groups, used weapons, and eventually domesticated other species to aid them. A student that resembled a walking flower spoke up. Domesticated? You mean they kept other species as slaves? Not quite, Professor Trill said, though his tone suggested uncertainty. The relationship appears to be symbiotic, though the details are disturbing. David, perhaps you would explain. David stood slowly, careful not to startle anyone. Domestication is a partnership. Take Rex here. His ancestors were wolves, which are pack hunters. They hunted in groups to take down prey much larger than themselves. The hologram now showed wolves hunting across snowy terrain. Several students made distressed noises. About 40,000 years ago, some wolves began hanging around human camps. They ate our leftover food, and in return they warned us when other predators approached. Over time we began breeding the friendliest ones. Generation after generation we selected for loyalty, intelligence, and the desire to work with humans. David gestured to Rex, who had sat up, tail wagging. Modern dogs are the result. They're still capable hunters, but they've evolved alongside us. They protect us, help us, and live as part of our families. A crystalline student's facets flashed nervously. But surely such a creature is dangerous. What prevents it from attacking? Training and trust, David said simply. Rex, sit. Rex sat immediately, looking up at David with devoted eyes. Down. Rex lay down. Still watching David. Speak, Rex barked once, and half the class jumped in terror. Good boy. David scratched Rex's ears, and the dog's tail thumped against the floor happily. See? He understands commands and wants to please me. That's the result of thousands of years of partnership. Professor Trill's eye stalks quivered. Fascinating. And the feline? I noticed it has retractable claws and vertical pupils, clear indicators of a nocturnal ambush predator. Amy stood, cradling Whiskers. Cats domesticated themselves, actually. When humans started farming grain about 10,000 years ago, the grain attracted mice. Mice attracted wildcats. The wildcats that were comfortable around humans got easy meals, and we appreciated having pest control. Pest control? A student asked. Killing the mice that ate our food? Amy clarified. Several aliens gasped. Unlike dogs, cats aren't pack animals. They're more independent, but they still form strong bonds with humans. As if on cue, Whiskers began purring loudly, rubbing her head against Amy's chin. She's showing affection. Cats purr when they're happy and comfortable. A brave student leaned slightly forward. May I ask how you control such a creature? You don't really control cats, Amy admitted with a smile. You build a relationship of mutual respect. I feed her, play with her, and keep her safe. She provides companionship and yes, hunts any mice that show up, but she chooses to stay with me. Robert decided it was his turn. Captain here represents another type of human-animal relationship. Parrots are incredibly intelligent, almost as smart as a young human child. They can learn hundreds of words, solve puzzles, and even understand some abstract concepts. Demonstrate, please, Professor Trill requested, scientific curiosity overriding caution. Captain, what color is the professor? Captain tilted his head, studying Professor Trill. Purple. Pretty purple. The class erupted in shocked murmurs. A parrot had just spoken Galactic Standard. He's mimicking the translation device, Robert explained. Parrots can replicate almost any sound they hear. In the wild, they use this ability to communicate with their flocks across vast distances. Professor Trill oozed closer, though still maintaining a safe distance. This is remarkable. You have a creature intelligent enough to learn language, yet it chooses to remain with you. It's not servitude, Robert said firmly. Captain could fly away if he wanted, but I provide food, safety, social interaction, and mental stimulation. In return, he gives me companionship. We're partners. The professor's slime rippled thoughtfully. I am beginning to understand. These creatures are dangerous, yes, but you have formed bonds that transcend the typical predator-prey dynamic. You have made allies of potential threats. That's one way to look at it, David agreed. But to us, they're not threats. They're family. At that moment, Whiskers decided she had been patient long enough. She leaped from Amy's lap onto her desk, stretched luxuriously, and began grooming herself. Her rough tongue rasped against her fur, and her claws extended briefly to clean between her toes. A student in the front row took one look at those claws and bolted from the classroom. then another, then 5 more. Professor Trill's eye stalks drooped. Perhaps we should take a brief recess. As students fled, Pryl remained in her seat watching Whiskers with a mixture of fear and fascination. Does it hurt when the cat cleans itself with its tongue? It looks very rough. Cats have barbed tongues to help with grooming, Amy explained. It feels like sandpaper. Want to touch her fur? I promise she's gentle. Pryl hesitated, then slowly extended a paw. Amy guided it to Whiskers' head. The cat leaned into the touch, purring louder. Oh, Pryl breathed. She is very soft and warm, and that vibrating sound is quite soothing. That's why we love them, Amy said. Yes, they're predators, but they're also capable of incredible gentleness and affection. Rex, not wanting to be left out, padded over and sat politely in front of Pryl. The rabbit-like alien froze. It's okay, David encouraged. Hold out your paw slowly. Let him sniff you. Trembling, Pryl extended her paw. Rex sniffed it carefully, then gave it a gentle lick. Pryl's eyes widened. It is warm and wet, but not unpleasant. You can pet him if you want, right here behind the ears. Pryl carefully touched Rex's head, fingers barely making contact. Rex leaned into the touch, tail wagging. A small smile appeared on Pryl's face. He likes it. He loves it, David confirmed. Professor Trill watched this interaction with all eye stalks focused intently. Remarkable. A prey species and a predator species, interacting peacefully through human mediation. This challenges everything we thought we knew about interspecies relationships. The professor's slime pulsed thoughtfully. I must research this further. Class dismissed. As the room emptied, David, Amy, and Robert exchanged glances. Their first real class had resulted in a mass exodus of terrified students and a professor questioning fundamental biology. Well, Robert said cheerfully, that went better than expected. Captain bobbed his head in agreement. Better than expected. Pretty bird. Pryl, still carefully petting Rex, looked up at the humans. You are very strange, but perhaps not so frightening after all. It was a start. The student common room sprawled across an entire deck of the station, with different environmental zones for different species. One area had thick mist for amphibious beings. Another was kept cold for Ice World natives, and a central zone maintained comfortable temperatures for everyone else. David pushed through the entrance doors with Rex trotting beside him, off-leash now that the dog had proven he wouldn't chase other students without permission. Amy and Robert followed close behind, Amy carrying Whiskers while Captain rode on Robert's shoulder as usual. 2 weeks had passed since their arrival, and while most students still gave them a wide berth, at least people had stopped running away screaming. That was progress. Pryl waved them over to a cluster of seating pods near a viewport showing the stars outside. Several other students sat nearby, including a crystalline being named Shimmer and a butterfly-like alien called Flitter, who had started cautiously befriending the humans. We saved you seats, Pryl said, though her ears still twitched nervously when Rex approached. There is entertainment tonight. A singer performance. Sounds good, David said, settling into a pod while Rex curled up at his feet. Amy took another seat with Whiskers in her lap, and Robert found a perch designed for standing species. The common room filled up quickly. Dozens of species mingled, sharing food, stories, and cultural exchanges. It was exactly what the program was designed for. Then Captain decided to show off. The parrot had been quietly observing everything, as he always did. Parrots were natural mimics, and Captain had been absorbing sounds since they arrived. When a singer began warming up for the evening performance, trilling a complex melodic pattern, Captain listened intently. Then he replicated it perfectly. Every singer in the room stopped what they were doing and spun toward the sound. They trilled questioning notes, confused about where the unexpected voice came from. Captain, delighted by the attention, repeated the trill, then added a variation he had heard earlier. The singers began trilling frantically, a cascade of confused harmonies. One rushed over to Robert, singing urgent notes that the translator struggled to interpret. Why does the small creature make our language? Is it a baby singer? How did it learn our sacred songs? He's a parrot, Robert explained quickly. He mimics sounds. He doesn't understand what he's saying. He's just copying what he hears. But Captain, enjoying himself, began cycling through other sounds. He replicated the door chime, Pryl's alarm chirp, the cafeteria's serving bell, and the exact tone of Brightness of Dawn's greeting hum. The translator gave up trying to keep pace. "Make it stop," a singer pleaded. "It is singing our private family melodies." Robert tried to calm Captain down, but the parrot was having too much fun. He whistled, clicked, hummed, and chirped his way through his entire repertoire of station sounds. Meanwhile, across the room, disaster of a different kind was brewing. Whiskers had been dozing peacefully in Amy's lap as cats do. Then something small and fast zipped past overhead. Her eyes snapped open, vertical pupils dilating instantly to track the movement. It was a flitter's pet, a tiny floating creature that resembled a hummingbird made of light. It darted and zipped through the air, drawing patterns. Whiskers' entire body went rigid. Her tail began twitching. Every hunting instinct her species had refined over millions of years suddenly focused on that one small, fast-moving target. "Oh no," Amy said, recognizing the signs. Whiskers, no, but it was too late. Whiskers launched herself from Amy's lap with predatory precision. She twisted mid-air, claws extended, tracking the light creature with deadly focus. The creature zipped upward. Whiskers rebounded off a wall, using it to gain height, her movements fluid and impossibly fast. Students screamed and scattered. The light creature zipped between hanging decorations. Whiskers followed, leaping from fixture to fixture with casual ease. Furniture tumbled. Drinks spilled. A buffet table overturned when Whiskers used it as a launching platform. Somebody stop that monster. The flitter shrieked, watching her pet flee in terror. Amy sprinted after Whiskers, dodging panicked aliens. "She's just playing. She won't hurt it." But to everyone else, it looked like a vicious predator hunting helpless prey. Whiskers' movements were too fast, too precise, too perfect. This was what millions of years of evolution as an ambush predator looked like. The light creature zipped toward the misty amphibian zone, thinking it could hide. Whiskers didn't hesitate. She plunged into the mist, completely fearless. Then Rex decided to join the excitement. A group of Hoprans had been sitting peacefully near David, nibbling on vegetable treats. When Whiskers' chase brought her near them, Rex thought he recognized what was happening. Playtime. The German shepherd bounced to his feet, did a playbow with his front legs extended and rear up, tail wagging frantically, and barked enthusiastically. The Hoprans saw a massive predator drop into a pouncing stance and bare its teeth. They bolted. "Rex, no," David called. "It's not playtime." But Rex was excited now. He chased after the Hoprans, thinking they were playing a wonderful game. His bark echoed through the common room, each woof sending species scattering in all directions. Prill dove under a table. Shimmer's facets flashed panic colors. A slug being tried to escape but was too slow, freezing in terror as Rex bounded past, completely ignoring it in favor of the running Hoprans. "Emergency! Emergency!" someone shouted. "The predators are hunting." Station security burst through the doors, armed with containment equipment. They froze at the scene before them. A cat ricocheting off walls through mist, a parrot screaming every alarm sound it knew, and a large predator chasing rabbit-like aliens in circles. Admiral Kress, the reptilian military officer who happened to be visiting, strode in behind security. She took one look at the chaos and began laughing. "Stand down. Look at the actual behavior." "But Admiral," a security officer protested, "the creatures are hunting." "Watch," Kress insisted. Amy had finally cornered Whiskers in the mist zone. The cat sat down, licking her paw, looking immensely pleased with herself. The light creature she had been chasing hovered above her, completely unharmed. Robert had convinced Captain to be quiet by giving him a treat. The parrot munched happily, occasionally muttering "pretty bird" between bites. David caught up to Rex, who had stopped chasing the Hoprans the moment David called him seriously. The dog sat immediately, panting happily, tail still wagging. Not one Hopran had been touched, you see. Admiral Kress addressed the security team. The cat never caught her target, despite clearly having the ability to do so. The dog stopped instantly when commanded. "The bird is just noisy. These are trained companions, not wild beasts." The security team lowered their equipment reluctantly. Students began emerging from hiding spots, checking for injuries. There were none. Only overturned furniture and spilled drinks. Amy carried Whiskers back, the cat purring shamelessly. "I am so sorry." She saw something fast-moving and her instincts kicked in. The flitter retrieved her light creature, holding it protectively. "Your predator tried to kill my companion." "She was playing," Amy insisted. "Cats have a prey drive, But Whiskers has been around small animals before. She knows not to actually hurt them. Playing, the flitter's antennae quivered. That was hunting behavior. To cats, they're the same thing, Amy admitted. She practices her hunting skills through play. But notice she didn't use her claws. If she really wanted to catch your pet, it would have been over in seconds. Admiral Cress picked up an overturned chair, studying the claw marks on its fabric. Precise, controlled movements. Even in excitement, the creature maintained enough discipline not to cause real harm. Impressive. David was surrounded by angry Hoprans. Your beast chased us. We thought we would die. I know, and I apologize. Rex thought you were playing. When things run, he wants to chase. It's instinct. But look. David pointed to Rex, who was now sitting calmly, looking confused about why everyone seemed upset. He didn't bite, didn't scratch, didn't hurt anyone. The moment I called him, he stopped. Prill emerged from under the table slowly. You can truly control them even when they are excited. Not perfectly, David admitted. They're animals with instincts. But yes, training goes a long way. Rex knows the difference between play and real work. He would never actually hurt someone unless I was in danger and told him to protect me. Robert, meanwhile, was demonstrating to the confused singers that Captain meant no offense. He just likes sounds. He doesn't understand that your songs are sacred. To him, they're just interesting noises to copy. One singer cautiously approached. Can it learn to not sing our private melodies? Probably not, Robert said honestly. But I can teach him not to mimic singers at all if you prefer. He's smart enough to understand that some sounds are off limits. Brightness of dawn floated into the common room, its light flickering with what might have been frustration. What happened here? Everyone started talking at once. The Dean's light pulsed sharply, demanding silence. Admiral Cress stepped forward. A minor incident caused by instinctive behaviors. No one was harmed. However, I found it educational. Educational. Brightness of dawn's tone was skeptical. These humans can command predators mid-hunt. That level of training and control is remarkable. Cress looked at David, Amy, and Robert with newfound respect. On my world, we have warriors who spend decades learning such discipline. These humans apply it to their companion animals. The Dean floated in a slow circle, processing this. The common room will need repairs, and new protocols to prevent future incidents. We'll help clean up, David offered immediately, and we'll work on better control around the pets. See that you do, Brightness of Dawn said. But the Dean's light had a curious purple tinge now. Admiral Cress, I would speak with you about your observations. As the crowd dispersed, Prill hopped over to David. She looked at Rex for a long moment, then very deliberately sat down beside him. Rex sniffed her gently and lay down, placing his head near her feet. I am still frightened, Prill admitted. But I am beginning to understand. Your companions are dangerous, yes, but they are also disciplined. That is somehow more impressive than simple tameness. David smiled. Welcome to understanding dogs. Prill. They're the best friends you'll ever be terrified of. Rex's tail thumped agreement against the floor. Professor Trill's private research laboratory was organized chaos. Data screens floated in midair, displaying charts, graphs, and streaming video footage. Biological samples in sealed containers lined the walls. In the center of it all, the professor sat in a specialized mobility tank. Eye stalks extended as multiple limbs manipulated different data streams simultaneously. David stood in the lab with Rex at his side, watching as Professor Trill reviewed footage from the common room incident for what must have been the 20th time. The professor kept replaying the moment where Whiskers executed a perfect wall jump to change direction mid-chase. Extraordinary, Professor Trill murmured. The spatial awareness, the muscle control, the predictive tracking. This is apex predator behavior. She's actually pretty average for a cat, David offered. Some can jump 5 times their body length straight up. Professor Trill's slime rippled in what might have been disbelief. You say this casually as if it is not terrifying. I guess we're used to it. David shrugged. When you grow up with these animals, you stop seeing them as threats and start seeing them as family. The professor pulled up another screen, this one showing historical records. I have been researching Earth's domestication timeline. The data is disturbing. 40,000 years ago, humans befriended wolves, creatures that could kill and eat you. Wolves are pack hunters, David explained. So are humans. We understood each other. The wolves that were comfortable around humans got access to our food. We got warning systems and hunting partners. Both species benefited. But the risk, Professor Trill insisted. A wolf could easily kill a human child. So could falling off a cliff or getting struck by lightning, David countered. Humans are good at risk assessment. We calculated that the benefits outweighed the dangers. Professor Trill brought up images of other Earth animals. Horses, cattle, pigs, chickens. You also domesticated prey animals. Large, powerful prey animals. I have read that something called a horse can kick with enough force to shatter bones. Sure, David agreed. But horses are also fast and strong. We used them for transportation and heavy work. In return, we protected them from predators and provided food during winter. Protected them from predators that you yourselves likely attracted, Professor Trill pointed out. David grinned. Fair point. But it worked out for everyone involved. Amy arrived at the lab with Whiskers, followed shortly by Robert with Captain. Professor Trill had requested interviews with all the human students as part of an official research project. Thank you for coming, the professor said. I am trying to understand the psychological aspects of your domestication practices. Amy, please explain how felines came to live with humans. Amy settled into a chair, Whiskers immediately making herself comfortable in her lap. Cats are unique because they're only semi-domesticated. They basically domesticated themselves. Explain, Professor Trill prompted, recording devices humming to life. About 10,000 years ago, humans started farming. We stored grain in buildings. The grain attracted mice and rats. Wildcats noticed the concentration of prey and moved closer to human settlements. Amy stroked Whiskers' fur. The cats that were comfortable around humans got easy hunting. We benefited from free pest control. Over time, we started actively feeding the friendliest cats and they became companions. But they remained predators, Professor Trill observed. You kept predators in your homes with your children. Cats are small, Amy said. Yes, they can scratch and bite, but they rarely do serious harm to humans unless severely provoked. Most cats are gentle with human children. They seem to recognize that babies are not threats. Professor Trill's attention shifted to Robert. And the avian? Parrots are not domesticated in the traditional sense, correct? Right, Robert confirmed. Captain bobbed on his shoulder. Parrots are tamed, not domesticated. Each bird has to individually choose to trust humans. You can't breed a friendlier parrot the way you can breed a friendlier dog. Yet you keep highly intelligent wild creatures as companions? Parrots are social flock animals. In the wild, they live in complex communities with strong social bonds. When kept as pets, they bond with their human as a flockmate. Robert offered Captain a treat, which the bird took gently. Captain sees me as part of his flock. He trusts me completely. Professor Trill reviewed footage of Captain mimicking various sounds. This ability to replicate any sound is remarkable, also potentially dangerous. He could trigger emergency alarms or impersonate authority figures. Which is why training is important, Robert said. I teach Captain which sounds are okay to make and which aren't. It takes time and patience, but parrots are smart enough to learn complex rules. The professor brought up a new document. I have been reviewing Earth's classification as a Class 12 Deathworld. The statistics are alarming. You have mammals that can bite with over 1,000 pounds of force, reptiles that can swallow prey whole, insects that can kill with poison, plants that cause severe pain with mere contact. Earth is a tough place, David admitted. Life there is competitive and aggressive. But that's also why humans develop certain traits, such as pattern recognition, risk assessment, and the ability to form alliances with other species. David gestured to Rex. We learned that making friends is often smarter than making enemies, even with potential threats. Admiral Kress entered the lab, her scales gleaming under the laboratory lights. Professor Trill, I hope you do not mind the interruption. I have been conducting my own investigation. Of course, Admiral. Please share your findings. Kress projected her own data. I have been analyzing human military history. They use animals extensively in warfare and rescue operations. Dogs detect explosives and track enemies. Horses carry soldiers into battle. Even birds have been used for communication. The humans weaponize their companions? Professor Trill sounded horrified. No, Kress corrected. They partnered with them. There is a difference. These animals choose to work with humans. They are trained, yes, but they are also respected and cared for. I found multiple examples of human soldiers risking their lives to save their animal partners. She pulled up historical images. Dogs who warned troops of danger. Horses who carried wounded soldiers to safety. Dolphins who protected swimmers from predators. In each case, the relationship is built on mutual trust. Prill hopped into the lab, invited by Professor Trill as a secondary perspective. I have been observing the humans and their companions for 3 weeks now, she said. I was terrified at first, but I noticed patterns. Please elaborate, Professor Trill encouraged. The animals are always fed before the humans eat. They are groomed and checked for health daily. When the dog Rex was limping last week, David took him immediately to medical. The humans prioritize their companions' welfare. Amy nodded. Of course we do. They depend on us. Taking care of them is our responsibility. But they also serve you, Prill pointed out. Rex guards David's quarters. Whiskers hunted a small pest in Amy's room. Captain alerts Robert to visitors. It goes both ways, Robert said. That's what partnership means. We help each other. Professor Trill was silent for a long moment, processing everything. Finally, the professor spoke. I am beginning to understand. Your species evolved in an environment where everything was a potential threat. You survived by forming alliances, even with species that could harm you. This strategy became so ingrained that you now seek companionship with creatures most beings would flee from. That's pretty accurate, David agreed. We're social creatures. We want friends, and we learned that friendship can cross species barriers. Admiral Kress studied Rex thoughtfully. On my world, we have large predators. We avoid them or kill them. The concept of befriending one would never occur to us. Maybe you're missing out, Amy suggested. The bond between humans and animals is special. It teaches us empathy, responsibility, and unconditional love. Unconditional love from a predator? Professor Trill's eye stalks quivered. That seems contradictory. David knelt beside Rex, scratching the dog's ears. Rex leaned into the touch, tail wagging, eyes half closed in contentment. Rex doesn't care if I'm smart or successful or popular. He doesn't judge me. He just loves me because I'm his human. That's powerful. Whiskers chose that moment to start purring, the sound filling the laboratory. Several recording devices picked up the vibration and displayed it as a waveform. That sound, Priel said softly. What is its purpose? Scientists think purring helps cats heal faster and reduces stress, Amy explained. But honestly, I think they do it because they're happy. When Whiskers purrs, I know she feels safe and loved. Captain began preening Robert's hair gently. Pretty bird, the parrot muttered. Good, Robert, Robert smiled. Captain expresses affection through grooming. It's how parrots bond with their flockmates. Professor Trill was typing rapidly, recording all observations. This is unprecedented data. The psychological benefits of companionship with potentially dangerous species. The training methodologies. The mutual dependence. I must publish these findings. Just make sure you include the important part, David said. It's not about controlling dangerous animals. It's about building relationships based on trust and respect. Admiral Kress nodded slowly. I am beginning to see potential applications. If humans can train predators to work cooperatively, perhaps we can learn similar techniques. Not for warfare, but for search and rescue operations. We'd be happy to help teach, Amy offered. Animal training is rewarding work. Priel approached Rex cautiously, then with more confidence than before placed her paw on his head. Rex's tail wagged, and he gave her hand a gentle lick. Pril's ears relaxed. I think I understand now. The danger is real, but the bond is stronger than the fear. Exactly, David said. That's what makes these relationships special. We choose to trust each other, and that trust creates something beautiful. Professor Trill's slime pulsed thoughtfully. I will recommend to the Academic Council that Earth-animal companionship be studied as a formal discipline. This knowledge could benefit many species. We'd be honored, Robert said. Sharing this part of our culture is why we came to the Academy. As the meeting concluded and everyone prepared to leave, Professor Trill called out, David, one final question. If you could only keep one companion species, which would you choose? David looked down at Rex, who gazed back with absolute devotion. I couldn't choose. Each species offers something unique. Dogs offer loyalty, cats offer independence, birds offer intelligence. Together, they teach us different aspects of love and friendship. A diplomatic answer, Professor Trill observed. An honest one, David corrected. Earth's greatest strength is not that we tamed predators. It's that we learned to love them. Rex barked softly in agreement, and somewhere in that sound, perhaps the rest of the galaxy could finally begin to understand. Alarms screamed through the station corridors, red emergency lights strobing in patterns that meant danger. David was in his quarters studying when the alert came through his communication device. His training from Earth kicked in immediately, adrenaline sharpening his focus. Attention all personnel. We have a critical situation in Maintenance Section 7. Toxic gas leak. 3 students trapped. Rescue teams are assembling but cannot reach the affected area due to environmental hazards. David bolted from his room, Rex at his heels. The dog sensed the urgency, moving with purpose rather than playfulness. They met Amy and Robert in the corridor, both already running toward the emergency assembly point. The scene at the maintenance section entrance was controlled chaos. Station security had cordoned off the area. Professor Trill was there, along with Brightness of Dawn and Admiral Kress. Priel stood nearby with several other students, her ears flat against her head in distress. The situation is critical, a security officer explained to the gathered crowd. Pril's study group was conducting research in the maintenance tunnels when a coolant pipe ruptured. 3 students are trapped behind emergency bulkheads. The atmosphere is filling with toxic vapor. How long do they have? Admiral Kress demanded. 15 minutes before the concentration becomes lethal to most species. Our rescue equipment is designed for controlled environments, not toxic atmospheres with zero visibility. David stepped forward. Rex can help. Every head turned toward him. Your animal? The security officer asked incredulously. How? Dogs have been used for search and rescue on Earth for hundreds of years. Rex is trained in basic tracking. More importantly, his sense of smell is 40 times more sensitive than a human's. He can find those students in conditions where your equipment fails. Absolutely not. Brightness of Dawn's light pulsed red. We cannot risk sending an untrained animal into a disaster zone. He's not untrained, David insisted. Rex search. The dog's entire demeanor changed. His ears perked forward, his nose went to work, and he moved with focused intensity. This was working mode. Admiral Kress watched Rex carefully. What else can he do? He can navigate in complete darkness using scent and hearing. He's strong enough to activate manual door releases with his mouth, and he can lead people back to safety. Robert stepped up. Captain can help too. He's small enough to fly through ventilation shafts. He can scout ahead and report back what he sees. The bird talks? A security officer asked. He mimics, Robert clarified. But I've trained him with specific calls. One whistle for danger, another for all clear. He can be our eyes where sensors fail. Amy joined them. Whiskers can see in near total darkness and detect heat signatures. If anyone is injured and losing body heat, she'll find them. The security chief looked at Admiral Kress, who looked at Brightness of Dawn. The dean's light flickered with uncertainty. This is highly irregular. So is letting 3 students die, David said bluntly. We're wasting time. Priel pushed through the crowd. Please, my friends are in there. If the human companions can help, let them try. Admiral Kress made the decision. We proceed with the animal assistance, but the humans go in as well to direct them. Get them protective gear. Within minutes, David, Amy, and Robert were suited up in emergency environment suits. The animals couldn't wear the bulky gear, but their natural resilience would have to suffice. David gave Rex a protective vest used by Earth search and rescue dogs, at least. Here's what we know. The security chief briefed them. The trapped students are somewhere in a 300-meter section of maintenance tunnels. Visibility is 0 due to the vapor. Communication is spotty. Standard procedure is manual evacuation through emergency access points. Rex, Captain Whiskers, this is important, David said, kneeling to address all 3 animals. The other 2 joined him. We need to find people who need help. Can you do that? Rex barked once, sharp and clear. Captain bobbed his head. Whiskers meowed, her tail swishing with focus. The emergency bulkhead opened with a hiss. Thick yellowish vapor poured out. The humans activated their suit lights and stepped into the toxic cloud, their animal companions moving with them. Inside was exactly as described. 0 visibility. David's suit light barely penetrated 3 meters ahead. The vapor stung his eyes even through the protective faceplate. But Rex's nose was already working, tracking scents invisible to human senses. Rex, search. Find them, boy. The German shepherd moved forward with confidence, nose to the ground. David followed, trusting his companion completely. Behind him, Amy released Whiskers, who disappeared into the shadows, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Captain took flight, his smaller size allowing him to navigate spaces the humans couldn't. They moved deeper into the maintenance section. Equipment loomed out of the fog, creating obstacles. Pipes leaked with ominous hisses. The suit radio crackled with interference. Rex stopped suddenly, whining. His ears swiveled, picking up something David couldn't hear. Then the dog barked 3 times and changed direction. He's got something, David reported, following Rex's lead. They rounded a corner into a narrower passage. Rex barked again, more urgently now. Ahead, barely visible through the vapor, was an emergency bulkhead that had sealed automatically. Behind it would be the trapped students. The control panel was dead, fried by the same malfunction that caused the leak. There was a manual release, but it required significant force to operate. Rex, here. David pointed to the release lever. Pull! The dog reared up on his hind legs, gripped the lever in his powerful jaws, and wrenched it sideways. Metal groaned. The lever moved. The bulkhead hissed and began to open. Inside were 2 students, a singer and a crystalline being, both unconscious from vapor exposure. But there should have been 3. Where's the third? Amy's voice came through the radio. A faint whistle echoed through the tunnels. Captain's danger signal. Robert's voice crackled. Captain found something. Section 7C. 1 student looks injured. We'll get these 2, David said. You and Captain guide us to the third. Amy and David each grabbed a student, pulling them toward cleaner air. Rex led the way back, his path never wavering despite the identical-looking corridors. The dog's internal map was perfect. They handed off the 2 rescued students to the medical team at the entrance. Both were breathing but needed immediate treatment. Third student, Admiral Kress asked. Captain found them, going back. David didn't wait for permission. Following Robert's radio guidance and Captain's whistles, they navigated to Section 7C. The passage here was partially collapsed, with twisted metal and broken pipes creating a maze of hazards. Whiskers appeared out of the gloom, meowing urgently. She led them to a small gap in the wreckage. Beyond it, barely visible, was Priel's friend, a Hoprin named Bounce trapped beneath a fallen beam. Can't fit through, Amy assessed quickly. Opening is too small for us in suits. But not for them, Robert realized. David looked at Rex. This was beyond anything they had trained for. But Rex was smart, and he trusted his human. Rex, help. Careful, boy. Gentle. The dog squeezed through the gap that humans couldn't navigate. They heard him whining softly, then the sound of something heavy being moved. Rex was using his neck and shoulder strength to shift debris. Whiskers followed, her flexible spine allowing her to slip through easily. Her night vision would help guide Rex in the darkness. Minutes passed. David's heart pounded. Then they heard barking, and Bounce appeared at the gap, pushed from behind by Rex's nose. The Hopron was conscious but dazed. Amy grabbed Bounce and pulled them clear just as another pipe burst above them, spewing more toxic vapor. Go, go, go! They ran! Rex bounded ahead, finding the quickest path back. Captain flew alongside, whistling all clear signals. Whiskers brought up the rear, ensuring no one fell behind. They burst through the emergency bulkhead entrance, pulling off helmets and gasping clean air. Medical teams rushed forward to treat Bounce, who was injured but alive. Priel pushed through the crowd and embraced her friend, tears streaming down her face. You are alive. You are alive. She turned to David, Amy, and Robert, then knelt before Rex, Whiskers, and Captain. You saved them. You went into danger to save my friends. Rex's tail wagged slowly, tired but pleased. Whiskers rubbed against Pril's leg, purring. Captain landed on Robert's shoulder, ruffling his feathers to resettle them. Admiral Kress approached, her expression unreadable. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed. A formal military bow of respect. I have seen many brave soldiers, Kress said, but I have never seen such courage combined with such perfect teamwork. These creatures risked their lives for strangers. For aliens they barely know. They risked their lives for us, David corrected. Rex didn't go in there to save Pril's friends. He went in there because I asked him to. Because he trusts me completely. That's what this bond means. Professor Trill oozed forward, eye stalks focused on the 3 animals. I have been studying Earth's domestication practices for weeks. I thought I understood, but I did not. This goes beyond training or obedience. This is true partnership. Brightness of dawn's light pulsed a warm, grateful gold. I believe an apology is owed. We have feared these creatures since you arrived. We saw only the danger, not the potential. Today they proved their worth beyond measure. They proved their hearts, Amy said softly, holding Whiskers close. That's always been there. You just needed to see it. The medical team reported that all 3 rescued students would make full recoveries. The news spread through the station rapidly. Within hours, students who had previously avoided the humans began approaching them, asking questions, wanting to meet the heroic animals. That evening, the station held an informal gathering in the common room. Prill stood before the assembled students and spoke. I was terrified of the human companions. I thought them monsters. But today, monsters became heroes. Rex navigated toxic darkness to find my friends. Whiskers saw in conditions we could not. Captain scouted dangerous areas without hesitation. They did this not for reward, but because their humans asked them to. She paused, looking at David, Amy, and Robert. Perhaps the true lesson here is not about what humans can teach us about domestication. Perhaps it is about what humans can teach us about trust, about seeing past our fear to the potential for friendship. Rex, exhausted from the rescue, slept at David's feet. Whiskers curled in Amy's lap, purring softly. Captain tucked his head under his wing on Robert's shoulder. Admiral Kress approached David quietly. Your planet has made remarkable companions out of predators. I wonder what else Earth might teach the galaxy. David smiled, stroking Rex's sleeping head. That's what we're here for, Admiral. One friendship at a time. The German shepherd's tail thumped once in his sleep, dreaming of a job well done. 3 months had passed since the rescue operation that changed everything. David walked through the station corridors with Rex beside him, and for the first time since arriving, students smiled and waved rather than fleeing. Some even stopped to ask if they could pet the dog. Rex, ever patient, sat politely while a group of young Hoprans carefully touched his fur, their fear replaced by wonder. One brave child giggled when Rex licked her hand. He is so soft, the child said, and warm. Like sunshine with fur. David smiled. He likes you too. The changes went deeper than casual interactions. Professor Trill's comparative biology class had transformed entirely. What started as a standard course now included a full module on Earth's domestication practices, and enrollment had tripled. Today was a special session, practical demonstration. The classroom was packed. Students from every species squeezed in, some standing in the aisles. At the front, David, Amy, and Robert stood with their companions preparing to teach. Professor Trill addressed the class. Welcome to Advanced Interspecies Bonding Theory. Our human guests have agreed to demonstrate training techniques that have been refined over thousands of years. Please observe carefully. David started with basic commands. The foundation of any animal partnership is communication. Rex, sit. Rex sat immediately, watching David with focused attention. Down. Rex lay down. Stay. David walked to the back of the room. Rex remained perfectly still despite the distance. Come. Rex bounded across the room and sat at David's feet, tail wagging. The students applauded. A crystalline being raised a faceted hand. How do you make him understand the words? Positive reinforcement, David explained. When Rex does what I ask, he gets rewards, treats, praise, playtime. He learns that obeying makes good things happen. But more importantly, he wants to please me because we have a bond of trust. Amy demonstrated with Whiskers next. Cats are different. They're more independent and less motivated by commands. But they still learn. She held up a small toy. Whiskers up. The cat jumped onto a table gracefully. Turn. Whiskers spun in a circle. High five. Whiskers lifted a paw and tapped Amy's hand with her pad. Claws retracted. A singer trilled a question. But earlier you said cats cannot be controlled like dogs. Yet she obeys you. She chooses to cooperate, Amy clarified. That's the key difference. Whiskers could ignore me if she wanted. But we play this game together, and she enjoys it. Training a cat is about finding what motivates them individually and building on that. Robert's turn came next. Parrots are problem solvers. They need mental stimulation. He showed Captain a puzzle box with treats inside. Captain, open. The parrot examined the box, then used his beak and claws to manipulate a series of latches. Within 30 seconds, the box opened and Captain retrieved the treat. The class erupted in excited murmurs. It solved a puzzle, someone exclaimed. Parrots are incredibly intelligent, Robert said. In the wild, they work together to find food and solve problems. Keeping a parrot means providing challenges and interaction. Captain needs to use his brain or he gets bored. Professor Trill projected new images. Based on research conducted over the past months, I propose a theory. Earth's hostile environment forced humans to develop advanced social intelligence. They applied this intelligence not just to other humans but to other species. The result is unprecedented interspecies cooperation. Admiral Kress stood at the back of the room. I have been authorized by the Galactic Council to announce a new initiative. The Interspecies Partnership Program will study Earth's methods for potential applications across the galaxy, search and rescue operations, therapy animals for trauma survivors, and environmental conservation efforts. She gestured to the humans. David, Amy, and Robert have agreed to help develop training protocols that other species can adapt for their own worlds and needs. Brightness of dawn floated forward. Additionally, we are pleased to announce that the Interstellar Academy will offer a new degree program, Comparative Companionship Studies. Professor Trill will lead this program, with humans serving as adjunct instructors. Prill stood up, her ears high with excitement. I have been accepted into this program. I will be the first Hopran to formally study animal behavior, with the goal of introducing companion animals to my homeworld. David felt a surge of pride. Prill had come so far from the terrified student who first saw Rex. After class, students lingered, asking questions and interacting with the animals. A young singer named Harmony approached Robert nervously. I have been watching Captain, Harmony said. He mimics my species' songs. I was offended at first, but now I understand he means no disrespect. Could you teach me how to communicate with him properly? I'd be happy to, Robert said. Captain actually seems to enjoy your people's songs. Maybe we could work on a duet. Harmony's crest feathers raised in delight. A duet between a singer and a parrot? That would be wonderful. Across the room, a group of students had surrounded Whiskers, who was demonstrating her impressive flexibility by grooming herself. Amy explained feline behavior patterns while the students took notes. Why does she vibrate? A butterfly-like student asked about Whiskers' purring. Scientists think it promotes healing and reduces stress, Amy explained. But I think she does it because she's happy. It's her way of saying everything is okay. A small voice asked, Could I try making that sound? It is very soothing. Amy showed the student how to place their hand gently on Whiskers' side to feel the purring vibration. The student's wings fluttered with contentment. David found himself surrounded by aspiring animal trainers, all asking about starting programs on their own worlds. A Hopran wanted to know if prey animals could be trained like predators. A crystalline being wondered if Earth had any silicon-based life forms that could bond with their species. Earth's diversity is pretty carbon-based, David admitted, but the principles of positive reinforcement and patience work across all types of relationships. It's not about the biology, it's about the communication. Later that evening, the humans gathered in their favorite spot in the common room. The space had been modified to include a dedicated area for companion animals, complete with comfortable beds and play structures. Rex sprawled across a cushion, exhausted from a day of being petted by hundreds of students. Whiskers had claimed a high perch where she could survey everything while remaining aloof. Captain was teaching several young singers a new song, creating a bizarre but beautiful harmony. Remember when we first arrived? Amy said, laughing. Half the station wanted us quarantined. And now we're running training seminars, Robert added. Life is strange. Priel hopped over, carrying data pads. I have been researching Earth's other domesticated animals. You have creatures called rabbits. They look similar to Hoprans. Similar but smaller, David confirmed. Humans keep them as pets too. They're gentle, social, and can be litter trained. Pril's eyes widened. You domesticated beings that look like my species? Humans will befriend anything, Amy said with a grin. Rabbits, guinea pigs, hamsters, rats, mice. We even keep insects in some cases. Insects? Priya looked horrified. The creatures with many legs and hard shells? Some people find them fascinating, Robert said. There's an Earth hobby called ant keeping. People maintain entire colonies in special containers and study their behavior. Your species is very strange, Prill concluded, but she said it fondly without fear. Professor Trill joined them, accompanied by Admiral Kress. I wanted to inform you that your research contributions have been recognized by the Galactic Academic Council. You will be published in the Journal of Xenobiology next month. Our research? David asked, surprised. The data collected from your daily interactions with your companions has provided invaluable insights, Professor Trill explained. We now Understand that Earth's apparent hostility actually fostered unique advantages. Humans learned cooperation, adaptability, and the ability to find allies in unexpected places. Admiral Kress added, "My military command is particularly interested in your stress reduction techniques. Soldiers suffering from combat trauma might benefit from animal companionship. We are breeding our first program animals now based on your advice." "What species?" Amy asked curiously. "A herbivore native to my world called a calm scale. Gentle, empathetic, easily trained. Not predators like your companions, but perhaps suitable for our psychology." "That's wonderful," David said. "Different species need different approaches. The core principles are the same, but the application should fit the culture." Brightness of dawn's light pulsed warmly as the dean joined the gathering. "I must admit, I was skeptical when you arrived. Deathworld predators loose on my station seemed like a recipe for disaster." "And now?" Robert prompted. "Now I see that Earth's greatest export is not dangerous animals. It is the capacity for connection. You have taught us that fear can be overcome, that differences can be bridges rather than walls, and that family can include any species willing to share trust and affection." Rex chose that moment to roll over and demand belly rubs from Prowl, who laughed and complied. Whiskers jumped down from her perch to curl up in Professor Trill's mobility tank, purring against the professor's slime. Captain sang a gentle evening song that sounded like a lullaby. "I have a question," Prill said as she scratched Rex's belly. "When you return to Earth, will you take your companions with you?" "Of course," David said. "They're family. But what if some of us wanted to visit Earth? Would we be welcome?" The three humans exchanged glances, then smiled. "Absolutely," Amy said. "Earth is tough, but it's also beautiful, and we'd love to show you around." "I would like that," Priel said softly. "I want to see the world that created such bonds, to understand how a dangerous place produced such compassionate beings." "Earth isn't compassionate because it's safe," David explained. "We're compassionate because it's dangerous. When everything is a threat, you learn to value the things that aren't. You learn to build connections that help you survive. And eventually, those survival connections become something more: friendship, loyalty, love." Over the following weeks, more species began introducing their own companion animal programs. The singers started training small flying creatures to provide aerial perspectives. The Hoprens discovered that certain gentle herbivores from their world enjoyed human-style positive reinforcement training. Even the crystalline beings found that certain mineral formations responded to resonant frequencies in ways that mimicked communication. The cultural exchange program expanded. More Earth students arrived, bringing golden retrievers, beagles, hamsters, and even a pot-bellied pig. Each new animal became a teaching opportunity, a chance to demonstrate that size, diet, or temperament didn't matter as much as the willingness to build a relationship. Graduation day arrived with ceremony and celebration. The three humans stood on stage with their companions, receiving commendations for cultural contribution and academic excellence. Brightness of dawn addressed the assembled students. When our human friends arrived, they brought with them creatures we feared. We saw teeth, claws, and predatory instincts. We saw danger. The dean paused, light pulsing thoughtfully. But they taught us to see differently, to look past the surface and understand the heart beneath. Rex, Whiskers, and Captain have become symbols of what this academy represents: the triumph of understanding over fear, of connection over division. David stepped to the microphone. "We came here to learn about your cultures, and you've taught us so much. But I think the most important lesson goes both ways. Every species has value. Every creature has worth. And given patience, trust, and compassion, the bonds we can build together are limitless." Rex barked in agreement. Whiskers purred. Captain whistled a happy tune. The graduation reception was unlike anything the station had seen before. Species mingled freely, sharing stories and experiences. Students who had been terrified of Earth's animals now played with them confidently. Several aliens had even submitted applications to Earth universities wanting to study in person. Prial approached with her family, who had traveled from their homeworld for graduation. "Mother, father, these are my friends, David, Amy, Robert, and their companions. Pril's mother looked at Rex nervously. "This is the predator you wrote about?" "Yes," Pril said proudly. "Rex saved my friends' lives. He is brave, loyal, and gentle." She knelt and hugged the dog, who licked her face affectionately. Her parents watched in amazement as their daughter, a Hopran prey species, embraced a creature that in any other context would be a natural enemy. "The galaxy is changing," Pril's father said quietly. "Perhaps for the better." As the celebration continued, David found a quiet moment to look out at the stars. Rex sat beside him, ever faithful. "Think they'll remember us, boy?" David asked. Rex leaned against his leg, and David didn't need words to understand the response. It didn't matter if anyone remembered. What mattered was the bridges they had built, the fears they had conquered, and the friendships they had forged. Earth had sent its Deathworld predators into space, and instead of terror, they had brought hope. They had shown that even the most unlikely companions could find common ground, that trust could overcome instinct, and that love recognized no boundaries of species or origin. The three humans would return home soon, but they would leave behind a legacy. A galaxy just beginning to understand that the deadliest world had taught the gentlest lesson. That night, as David packed his belongings for the journey home, Rex slept peacefully at the foot of his bed. Whiskers purred in Amy's quarters. Captain dreamed on Robert's perch. Tomorrow they would board a transport back to Earth, but the work would continue. More students would come. More species would learn. More animals would build bonds across the stars. Professor Trill had summed it up perfectly in their final meeting. "You brought your predators to class and we learned about prey. You showed us danger and we discovered safety. You came from a world of violence and taught us about peace. That is the true power of Earth. Not strength through force, but strength through connection." David smiled in the darkness, listening to Rex's gentle snoring. "Come on, boy. Let's go home." Rex's tail thumped once against the floor. Home was calling. But thanks to three humans and their companions, the entire galaxy had become a little more like home for everyone. And that perhaps was the most human thing of all, taking the scariest, most dangerous aspects of their world and transforming them into sources of comfort, protection, and unconditional love. The Deathworlders had brought their pets to class, and the galaxy would never be the same.